JD Vance, you ran against him. Red State, you ran a heck of a race and did not beat him, but got to observe him up close. Here's the vice president today speaking to a tech conference in Washington, D.C. about globalization. Play number 7, please.
Friends, both on the tech optimist side and on the populist side, not to see the failure of the logic of globalization as a failure of innovation. Indeed, I'd say that globalization's hunger for cheap labor is a problem precisely because it's been bad for innovation. Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation. Because in the long run, it's technology that increases the value of labor. Innovations like the American system and the interchangeable parts revolution it sparked, or Ford's moving assembly line that skyrocketed the productivity of our workers. That's how American industry became the envy of the world. And that's what I really want to talk about today, why innovation is key to winning the worldwide manufacturing competition, to giving our workers a fair deal, and to reclaiming our heritage via America's great industrial comeback. And I believe that's what we're on the cusp of, a great American industrial comeback.
So, Congressman, I was not particularly impressed by that guy when he ran against you. I shared the view that many had that he was kind of a phony. And I was not surprised to hear many Republicans, including at the convention in Milwaukee, saying, please don't pick JD Vance. He's a phony and he's not true MAGA. I've been super impressed with him since the election and during the election. I just think he's a super talented guy. And I love the speech he gave in Europe. The people I spoke to tonight here in Milan were not big fans of it. But I think it made it on history as one of the most important speeches an American leader has given overseas in the last 50 years. So as a close observer of your fellow Buckeye, what is your critique of how he's done as vice president so far?
Well, I think there's no doubt about it. He's a smart guy. There's, Ivy League educated. He's a sharp guy. He could get into the nuance of policies. I still think the sycophant comes out in appropriate times, like it did in the White House Oval Office meeting with Zelensky. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch him operate. Now it's been kind of like, pretty much the first couple rounds of a fight where there's nothing controversial. But how does he respond to a $5 trillion tax cut that goes primarily to the wealthiest? How does that go down? How do you argue populism with that? I think, how do you argue debt and deficits with that? And again, I think I'm a firm believer too that innovation can help us reform government, can help us build the kind of economy that we need. But the other thing is, and he doesn't speak really to this point, is that the CHIPS Act, we're talking about reindustrialization, right? The CHIPS Act, which is basically helping reshore chip manufacturing. And again, the background music in all this, Mark, is that President Biden is not able to articulate this reindustrialization vision. And so it's opened the door for Trump to take credit for all of this. But it was the CHIPS Act, it was the IRA, it was a lot of the Democratic proposals. In my old congressional district, just outside of Youngstown, there's a battery factory with 2,000 UAW jobs making 30, 35 bucks an hour. Best jobs in town. And that was in part because our country was moving and our companies were moving towards reshoring and moving into the green economy. Now he's come out against the IRA. They're looking like they want to dismantle the CHIPS Act, not sure. And then the third pillar of that was obviously the infrastructure bill. So I'll be anxious to see. I think it's been a blank slate up to this point, and in those environments, he's going to do very, very well. And I love what he honestly was talking about with AI. I think if that ends up being the administration's position for us to dominate artificial intelligence and win that race to the future, I do think JD probably understands that a lot better than President Trump does. But that's something the Democrats, and again, just let's do a sidebar here on the Democrats. Like, why aren't the Democrats saying, yes, we're for that too? We want rules of the road and all of that with artificial intelligence. But let the American people know that we see the opportunity in artificial intelligence to streamline government. I'm working with a company now called Code Comply. It's for building commissioners to be able to use artificial intelligence. These guys make investments in the buildings. It takes years sometimes in the big cities to get approval that you're up to code. AI is doing it in weeks, maybe a month or two, right? Like, you want investment in the cities, Democrats? You want investment into the urban areas? You want to, make sure we're lifting people up and creating jobs? Then you better cut the bureaucracy. So go for that. Same thing with Doge. What's the top line on Doge? Government sucks. It's broken. Wastes a ton of money. Your money, your taxpayer money. Why wouldn't Democrats come to them and say, here's our 10 or 15 things in the government that we think we can save a boatload of money on, in Medicare, in Medicaid, in defense, in crop subsidies or corporate wealth, whatever. Just pick 10, but don't come out and look like you're against what Doge is doing, because 99.9% of the American people are for, generally speaking, the idea of reforming government. Now you're in a position to say, we're not going with that. We're not cutting 80,000 people from the VA. And back to the Schumer point, I think one of the things I would have told them, if you are going to agree, okay, if you are going to agree, have a couple asks, right? Don't just go with the program. Say, absolutely not 80,000 VA jobs. No shot. They ain't happening. We're not going with it. Now you start to shift the narrative of what Democrats are fighting for and what he's done. And it's like these little opportunities that we're missing that I think can help us reshape the party, modernize the party for the future. And we're just, we're not doing it, I think, at a sophisticated level.